It's 3 a.m. You wake up for absolutely no reason. No noise, no alarm, nothing. And when you crack your eyes open, your dog is just sitting there at the edge of the bed, not moving, not blinking much, just staring directly at your face with this weirdly intense focus, like he's been doing it for a while and you just happened to catch him mid-stare. You go back to sleep. In the morning, you mention it like it's a funny little anecdote, and it turns out literally everyone who's ever owned a dog or a cat has some version of this exact memory. The 3 a.m. stare down. The animal that wakes up for no apparent reason, locks eyes on your unconscious face, and just watches. Sometimes for minutes, for reasons it is obviously never once explained. So what's actually going on in those minutes? Is the dog bored? Worried? Is it doing some kind of weird animal version of watching over you? And honestly, why would any creature, given the very easy option of just going back to sleep, choose instead to sit upright in the dark, staring at something that's doing literally nothing? Turns out the answer starts somewhere you really wouldn't expect. The simple, brutal fact that sleep is dangerous. Not metaphorically dangerous, mechanically dangerous. We don't think about this because we sleep behind locked doors with the thermostat set to a comfortable 68 degrees. But across pretty much every social species that's ever existed, sleep is one of the single most vulnerable states an animal can be in. Muscles go slack. Reaction time tanks. Awareness of literally everything around you drops to almost nothing. Researchers who study this stuff describe sleep as this unavoidable, recurring window where an animal is basically a sitting target, which is exactly why any group living species that just let everyone pass out at the same time wouldn't have lasted very long against anything that wanted to eat them. So evolution did the obvious thing. It built a workaround. Researchers call it Sentinel behavior, and the textbook example is meerkats. In a meerkat colony, while most of the group is digging around for food or just hanging out, one individual peels off, climbs up onto a raised mound, and scans the horizon. The rest of the colony gets to relax their guard completely because that one meerkat is doing the worrying for everybody. And this isn't random or constant either. It rotates. Different meerkats take turns on watch duty, sometimes for surprisingly long stretches, with specific calls to tell everyone else when it's safe and when it's not. Vervet monkeys do basically the same thing. So do baboons. So do a bunch of bird species that nest cooperatively. Across a huge range of animals with almost nothing else in common, the pattern keeps showing back up. Something in the group has to stay alert while something else goes unconscious. Which brings us straight back to your bedroom at 3 a.m. A dog that's lived with you for years has basically folded you into its idea of the group, the exact same way it would fold in another dog. And a sleeping group member, by the oldest logic an animal brain has, is a member in exactly the state that's historically required somebody else to keep watch. The dog isn't consciously thinking about wolves or coyotes. It doesn't need to. This is older than conscious thought. It's the same wiring that sends a meerkat up onto a termite mound, just running in a bedroom instead of the Kalahari, with you as the thing being watched over. But here's where it gets weirder, because there's a whole second layer to this that has nothing to do with guard duty at all, and it's specific to dogs in a way that genuinely surprised the researchers who first measured it. In 2015, a team led by a scientist named Miho Nagasawa ran a study testing what physically happens in the body when dogs and their owners make eye contact for an extended period. Turns out, when a dog stares at its person for a while, the owner's body releases oxytocin, the same hormone that floods a parent's system when they're bonding with a baby. And here's the part that got everyone's attention. That oxytocin release in the human triggers a return release of oxytocin in the dog. It's a loop. Each one feeds the other. The longer the stare, the deeper the bond gets, on both sides simultaneously. They tested the exact same setup on hand-raised wolves, expecting something similar. Nothing happened. Wolves barely engage in this kind of sustained, deliberate eye contact with humans at all, and the oxytocin loop just didn't fire. Something about the domestication process specifically rewired dogs to use prolonged staring as a bonding tool in a way wolves never developed. Which means that dog at the edge of your bed isn't just running guard duty. There's a real chance it's also literally deepening its attachment to you in real time in the dark, using the exact same biological mechanism a new parent uses with their newborn, while you have absolutely no idea it's happening. Cats are honestly the messier case here, and we should be upfront that the science is way less buttoned up. Nobody's run the rigorous dog-level studies on cat staring yet. But there are a couple of solid theories floating around, and they probably both apply at once. One is pretty mechanical. A sleeping body looks still, but it's actually full of tiny movements, breathing rising and falling, eyes flicking under closed lids during certain sleep stages, the occasional twitch. A cat's visual system was built over millions of years specifically to lock onto exactly that kind of small, subtle motion, because that's what prey looks like. So part of the stare might just be a predator's eyes doing what predator eyes always do, even when there's nothing to actually hunt. The other theory ties into something most cat owners already half know: the slow blink. You've probably seen it. Your cat looks at you and does this long, deliberate, sleepy blink, and everyone agrees that's basically a cat saying, "I trust you. I like you. We're good." Some researchers think the unblinking 3 a.m. stare might be a less refined, more intense cousin of that same impulse, watching something they're bonded to for reasons that are probably some tangled mix of affection, curiosity, and leftover predator wiring that nobody's fully untangled yet. So what actually ties all of this together? The dog, the cat, the meerkat standing on its little mound in the African sun. It's this. Across a huge range of species that live closely together, the moment another member of the group goes still and unconscious, gets treated by something very old and very automatic as a moment that calls for somebody else to stay awake. Sometimes that's literally about predators. And sometimes, somewhere along the evolutionary line, that same old instinct got quietly rewired into something that looks a lot more like love. A hormone loop firing away in the dark for absolutely no practical reason except that the watching itself has become the whole point. You're probably never going to know, on any given night, which version is happening at the foot of your bed. It's watching anyway. Not because anything's wrong, just because somewhere deep in the wiring of basically every animal that's ever slept next to another one, stillness was never something to just ignore. It was always something worth staying up for.